Randy's going to reach out, by the way, by an email. We got to get some dates in September. If you and Diane are going to come up, we should pick a weekend.
All right. All
Yeah.
right.
All right. Cool.
We'll chat about that. So we're live. Hello, everyone. Happy Thankful Thursday. Hang on a quick second. I want to see comments. I want to see who's here. So as you're joining us, go ahead and say hi. Let Adama and I know that you're with us this afternoon. As you all know from the emails and the Facebook posts and all the wonderful things that we've been putting out there, Adam is in his official role. In his official role, Diane's on here. She says, "Happy Thankful Thursday." In his official role, has been an incredible mentor for me, and in his unofficial role, has been father, friend, all kinds of things at different points on our journey. And I really do mean it when I say I have a treat for you when I get to share Adam with you, our money family, because there's so many things. It's like I said on Clubhouse this morning, to sit at Adam's feet for any reason is just something that's amazing. So sit tight, get ready. You know it's Tasha and Adam time, so you probably need. I would encourage you to grab a pen and paper. I know there's something that's going to come from this conversation that you are going to want to either remember for a long time, or just add as a thing that you got today. All right, everyone's giving love and saying hi. Thank you all for being here.
Very
And
cool.
please, 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 it would be so amazing if you would share this video, and if you would tag a friend. And I know it's so easy to go, let me just tag a friend, but let them know why you want them to watch this video by saying something like, "Hey, here is the secret to success. I think you're going to like this video." Tag your friend and say something like that, because it really is going to be an amazing conversation. So Adam, what do you have
Hello
to
there.
say by way of giving love to everyone that's here this afternoon?
Oh my goodness. Well, first and foremost, I want to just say hello and welcome to Tasha and Adam's world, because this is we'll give you a look into our relationship, among other things, because we're mad friends and fans, and just couldn't just, I don't know, have any more affection and respect for one another. And yet, we lead very different lives, we have very different paths, very different experiences, and yet we are, I don't know,
Yep.
super tight. So that's, and I think in the world that we're living in right now, relationships are more important than they've ever been before. I know that's not necessarily what we're going to talk about today, but it just feels like the right way to begin. I'm called to say that because, as an old friend of mine who passed some years ago would say, it's the most important ship that we can sail on, the relationship.
The
And
relationship, that's so good. Yeah.
yeah, and to have a great relationship, when we know that we're all so different, to be able to learn sort of the essence of great communication, impeccable integrity with one another, to know that you can count on each other, and that you're there to be transparent and vulnerable in a world that's changing so rapidly, and where there's so much disruption in this, so much agitation, there's so much conflict and division. I just can't think of anything more important right now than great relationships. And so for that alone, I'm just grateful that you and I get to have a chat, and that I get to also be in relationship with this wonderful community that is so dear to you. I know, Tasha, and I know committed to the work that you've been doing together. So what a
Absolutely.
blessing. Yeah.
Yeah, what a blessing. Okay, my heart's full and my mind's like really soaking that in. The best ship that you can sail right now, is a relationship. And just thinking about, like, I think if all of us just stop for a moment and realize that, I say all the time, we're in pursuit of wealth. And one of the things that I feel called to share, we're having trouble streaming to Facebook. Let me know if you're still seeing us, if you're watching on Facebook. But yeah, we're all trying to call in more wealth, and just sometimes to take those moments and go, I have incredible relationships and I'm already wealthy. And that's the way I think of our relationship, Adam, and my relationship with everyone here, and that you get to share in this magical experience is wonderful. All right, so Adam wrote this new book, which is why we're going to talk today. It's called Change Proof. And I just want to dive right in with some questions. And I've been enjoying the book and really thought about, if I could ask Adam some things that I feel would really serve our people, what would those questions be? And the first one that I thought of, and I'm going to read two excerpts from the book that have been my favorite so far, is on the journey to manifesting wealth. We will get to some points where it feels like things are not working out, or it's not going according to plan, or we had we had all our ducks in a row, and then the universe decides, I'll change that up a little bit. we're gonna put a little change in there for you. I mean, so in that context, there's that with our money family and the idea of having a plan for financial well-being and wanting to manifest more money. And then there's also the reality of just the life we've all lived for the last 2 years, and literally having the rug pulled from under us. And many of us left feeling like, where do we go from here? I remember, just so you know, backstory, calling Adam, my coach, and going, I'm about to do a launch talking about manifesting money. And literally, we just got shut down across the world to stay in our house, not see each other, not talk. And I'm about to go do a launch to talk about money right now. What should I do? And that's how I made a living, is serving people in that way. So having the rug pulled from under you, if any of you can relate to that, and I titled the email that I sent to you, Resilience, It's the Secret to Your Success. And that's what we're going to talk about. So going right to the first question I have for you, Adam, I'm going to read from chapter 1, how change changes things and what to do about it. So here's this little thing. It says, like the rip current, everything in life isn't always going to go according to plan. And for those of us that are trying to manifest things, just like hear that and feel into that. Like the rip current, everything isn't always going to go according to plan. No matter how well manicured your plans, they are going to change. The Tao says it perfectly. Life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow, aka suffering. Let reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like. And your point here, Adam, is that's a painful lesson that I had to learn as part of your life journey. So let's start there. What does it mean to live a life where we can just be totally cool with change and
Yeah.
be resilient? What does that, define that for us?
That little thing. Okay, good. Well, first, let's just say this. I've had a lot of wonderful good fortune in my life, professionally, personally, and we don't have to cover that, but I'll just say that the unsung hero in every success story in my own life, and in the many success stories that I've been part of or witnessed in other people and other organizations, companies, etc., the unsung hero is always resilience. And that's why to me, this topic is so key to your community and to all of our lives, that we recognize it, we name it, and that we name it and also examine it, because I think for a lot of people, their almost subconscious definition of resilience, or the way that they would define it, even in this moment, is not serving them. And that's a part of what the book does, is it's got a bit of a reframe of that. We turn some of this conventional thinking about resilience, or what people think resilience is, and we create a new way of understanding it. We name it differently, and the paradigm then gets to shift. So right now, I think, again, in the world that we're living in, the most important thing that you can be is more resilient. And so I'd say we start there. Resistance is futile. Let's begin with that, because it's the universal law that all things must change. I really want people to hear that. I know
You all type
get
that?
we
Like,
get
I
it.
love typing. I love knowing that you guys got these little sound bites. Wow. The universal law is that change must happen.
Yes, all things must change. It's the law for manifestation in the universe,
Yeah.
which is your work. So
Yeah.
manifestation is all about transformation. It's all about things changing from one thing to another thing. And if you get in the way of that process, if you interfere with the universal principle like that, you're causing at a minimum inefficiency. You're creating inefficiency, but you're also creating suffering. You're creating pain, and it's self-sabotaging as well. So at the beginning of this book that you so kindly are talking to me about today, I tell a story from when I was 19 years old and as a lifeguard. And we start on the beach at a place that I used to work at called Jones Beach. It's the south shore of Long Island on the Atlantic Ocean, and we're really strong rip currents. And we start in a rescue that was all too familiar for us as lifeguards. That meaning people were in the water. They think they are safe and certain, and they've got their footing and everything else. And then along comes, wait, not a shark, a riptide, a rip current. And these riptides would move along the shore. They don't stay in one place. They appear and then they disappear. And then depending on the sweep of the ocean, they could be 50 yards to the east or to the west just in a matter of seconds. The person is standing in that water in 2 or 3 feet, and they've got their feet, firmly planted, and they feel good, and the sun is shining, and everything's great. And then all of a sudden, they get caught in a riptide, and now they're being sucked. We used to actually, as lifeguards, call them sucks, and now they're being sucked out to sea. And in a matter of seconds, there's now in 7 feet or 8 or 9 or 10 feet of water, and they're 20 yards from shore. And the rip is literally dragging them, pulling them out to sea. And the first thing that somebody in that situation typically does is they try to fight it. They resist the current. And I don't care what kind of swimmer you are. I'm a pretty good swimmer to this day. And I was, all of our lifeguards were really adept in the water. And yet we understood one fundamental thing, which is that you cannot fight that current. You cannot fight that strength, the strength of Mother Nature in that moment. So trying to swim in against the current is futile, because ultimately that resistance, trying to resist the current, will create exhaustion, which people are quite exhausted today for a variety of reasons that we'll get into. And then in that state of exhaustion, when you feel like maybe you don't actually have enough gas in the tank, you don't have the energy, you don't have the capacity, you don't have the tools and the skills to get yourself to shore, that's when something else happens. People get fearful. They become panicked. And from lifeguard perspective, from up in the lifeguard stand, looking out at the ocean, we could literally see the change come over a person, that they recognized in that moment that they're not gonna be able to fight this current effectively. And when the fear set in, that's when they became dangerous to themselves and anybody else around them, because now they were in that fight or flight mode. They were drowning, or they thought they were drowning. And we were in the water the second we saw it. The second we saw it, we blew the whistles, we swam out, and we were able to get them, put them on a buoy. And instead of trying to fight the current as lifeguards to bring them back to shore, instead we did one of two things. We either let go entirely, meaning we said to the person, listen, hold on to this buoy and relax and do nothing. Just float. Look up at the sky, look up at this beautiful sky, this beautiful sunshine. We're going to be fine. You're fine. I'm here. I've got you. Just breathe, just relax, do nothing, float, because what will happen is that the rip current will actually suck you out to a point, and then it will spit you out to one side or the other. And at which point there's no more current. You just swim in, just like, you were on a lake or something. That's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is go sideways, go perpendicular, parallel to the shore and perpendicular to the rip current, and then you're out of the rip current, and you're no longer having to fight something that's actually stronger than you and bigger than you. And I think we talk about change today because it's ever present, because we understand it is the law of manifestation. It's the only great constant that we can count on. This is sort of a riddle or an oxymoron, that the greatest constant in the universe is change itself. Think about that. The great constant is change. So to try to see change as threatening as so many people do, to be in fear of change, to think that change is difficult, that it's hard, that if you have to change the way you do business, if you have to change the way you earn your money, you have to change the way you manifest money, or you manage money, or you are attracting wealth to yourself, if you have to change the way you relate to the world differently, like we're relating now over a virtual platform. For a couple of years, I'm a public speaker. I get called into corporations all the time to do workshops and deliver keynotes, and all of a sudden, there's no workshops, there's no in-person anything. There's no events, there's no seminars, there's no, that just disappears. What do you do in that moment? The question is, if you try to fight it, if you resist, you will suffer. And ultimately, that exhaustion, that depletion gets in the way of the thing that we most need in this moment. And that is to be able to think more clearly, to think more critically, even. And when you're depleted, when you're exhausted from fighting something that you cannot win the fight against, you don't have the energy, you don't have the capacity to be able to see the great opportunities. Like you, Tasha, were able to see opportunities to serve your community even at a deeper level, using the virtual means that are at our disposal and the technology that's evolving every second. And we did the same thing. So, I'm thrilled that the pandemic is changing. It's different. It's not done with us in some respects. And yet I'm back to doing live trainings. I'm flying all over the country and all over the world even to do those things. But I love doing virtual work, and we'll never stop doing virtual work. And we wouldn't have done it. We wouldn't have done it the way we've learned how to do it, in fact, if it hadn't been for this massive change.
Oh my gosh, Adam, you know what's coming to my mind, and what you don't know is that little message I got there that said we're not live anymore on Facebook was real. So literally, I got a message from Diane, right? It is talk about appropriate. So I get a message. Diane's calling on my phone, which is like, Diane knows 101. I have a live, don't call. So she's calling, and I saw that she was watching. My phone's ringing with Diane, and I'm like, okay, something's up. She goes, "You're not live." She goes, "Just so you know, you're not live anymore." And I'm like, wait a minute, are we talking about change? Talking about and I'm laughing. And then I go, okay, breathe. I'm like, I can't stop Adam because he is so in the flow with what he's saying, telling his story, right? With the rib like, can't stop Adam. Okay, so just breathe. Is it still live on YouTube? And yes, we were still live on YouTube. So I think a lot of people are now coming over to YouTube because we posted that we're here. But I mean, how does it get any better than that? Mid
Yes.
conversation, we are thrown in a rip current, right? But what I love about what you just shared, and it took me back to a moment where we were having a coaching call, and I was in my Tasha, just like overwhelmed with life, and like the change is constant thing that you're talking about. And I remember calling you like with all of it, like, we need to talk. There's so much. It's overwhelming. It's larger than life. I don't know what to do. And I remember you said to me, okay, well, let's start with the breath. I mean, I wanted to kill you, truthfully, because it's like, why is it that the things that are so naturally and inherently the answer and so simple, either we forget or we just don't think of? Like you're saying, the rip current is there, and instead of just thinking to go with it and allow ourselves to be taken to the shore, we actually try to resist and fight it. And there's just so much. This entire time together could be just that conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's like a double rip current too, Tasha, because it's not only the rip current of the externalities, the existential threats that we see or that we're actually experiencing, but it's the rip current in our mind. It's the rip current of our thinking. And I think that's where you were at when I was, giving you some recommendations in that moment to take a breath, because we have to understand our physiology. We have to understand how it is that we make decisions, and whether we're making those decisions from a place of cortisol, meaning that there's adrenaline and cortisol in our bloodstream, and therefore we're in fight or flight, and we're making decisions in a reactive way, or we're in a place where our physiology and other things that we can talk about enable us to pause, ask, and choose. And those are the three things that we go through in the book. The book is structured in a way to help people to, first of all, redefine what change is, so they understand what the true paradigm of what changes and what resilience looks like in a world of ever-present change, so that you're not agnostic to change. We're not just accepting of the reality of change. That's a level of awareness that's fine, but we want to get to the place where we actually see change as net positive, that we
Yeah.
see change as net good, that change is truly your best friend. It's the friend of the universe, because it's the process of evolution. So
Yes.
to be able to embrace change is an entirely different paradigm. But in order to do that, we have to understand that that resilience is the key ingredient. It's the unsung hero. And to be
Mhm.
resilient, we cannot continue to practice resilience or perform resilience in the ways that we've done in the past. Like, you might ask, well, what does that look like? And resilience for so many people is just bouncing back. It's this ability to continue to take the punches or take the hits in life, take whatever life throws at you, and still go forward. That is not what resilience actually is. That's a paradigm that only leads to exhaustion, because for so many people that was their approach to the pandemic. I'll be gritty, right? I love Angela
Mm.
Duckworth and her work, but this is not about grit. Grit's an element of it. Tenacity. I'm a very tenacious person. I'm very persistent. But
Mm.
blind perseverance will only lead to exhaustion and burnout. And we do not make good decisions when we are exhausted or burned out. And in fact, we have tremendous additional challenges that show up when we're in that physiological state. Meaning we have health challenges, we have issues with relationships, and a number of other things when we're just coming from that place of, you know what, I'll just outrun this thing, I'll outlast this thing. So that's not what resilience is. Resilience is actually not about how we bounce back, but how we bounce forward. And the way that we bounce forward is in our rituals for recovery. It's in creating practices that enable us to recover. That's what resilience is. It's not about endurance. It's about how it is we recharge, how we reset, how we restore. That's what resilience looks like mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And that's what we introduce in the book. And in the moment, like you said, when you're caught in that riptide, and it's a rip current of externalities, but it's also the rip current of your mind and what you're thinking. That's when you have to pause. And that was the breath that I was suggesting with you that day, Tasha, that we pause and ask. And then when we pause and ask, we are presented with new options. In particular, we have the option to take an action because we've taken that moment to breathe, to go to neutral, to not look at the situation as good or bad, right
Mm.
or wrong, fair or
Mhm.
unfair, or any of those judgments that we often immediately kind of trigger our emotions involved, but rather we see something as neutral, as neither, and that there's no meaning to it on some level, just so that we can ask questions about it, we can explore it. What's the creative opportunity here?
Okay, pause, pause, pause. I don't want you to get too far ahead. Because literally, I'm like, can you stop talking so I can say this one thing, which is horrible for communicating and relationships. Don't ever
No,
do
it's good communication, actually.
because this is exactly that point, and I know what I would want to capture from what you shared, Adam, and knowing the people in our community, and knowing that we had that little mishap. I really want everyone to hear, when you are experiencing change, to try to resist it is going to lead to suffering and exhaustion. To try to resist it, like, right, so just embrace that and embody that. And then one of my favorite things I learned from your wife, Randy, was, what's the creative opportunity? What is the creative opportunity here? And what I love about what you shared is, when we think about, we're experiencing change, especially in business or in the path to creating wealth, it's that when you're experiencing change and you have an opportunity, it's presenting you with an opportunity to change, we tend to want to go for the highest reaching fruit, right? Like the most difficult thing to solve the problem, when literally, if you can embody what Adam just shared, which is just go with the tide, like just go with it, just breathe in the moment. Which leads me to, Adam, are some people better at their ability to do that than others. And in the book, in chapter 5, you quoted Martin Luther King, and I'd never heard this quote. I really loved it, and I'm going to read a little bit more. But it says, "We must accept infinite disappointment." Now, the positive Tasha in me was like, absolutely not. Right? What is that? We
Mm,
must accept we must accept, I'm sorry, we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope.
yeah.
And the second part of that quote is everything. Never lose infinite hope. And here's the part I want to share with everyone. I often wonder why some people are more resilient than others. Why is it that some people in the rip current naturally think to breathe, or to think of the creative opportunities, or to think of, let me not resist it? Is that just, and you say, what particular set of circumstances makes them able to withstand the slings and arrows of life, that life rains down upon them with dignity, humor, and grace? Are they born with it? Like blue eyes? I love that. Or nearsightedness? Are they more genetically predisposed to be resilient? And say, for instance, that a person wasn't born, which I know a lot of, if I were listening, this would be me. I don't feel as if I'm born to be change proof. Is that it for them? No chance, game over, you lose at the resilience lottery. Thank you for playing. The truth is, nobody knows for sure if resilience is something that you were born with or something that you just learn. Like most things with when nature and nurture are involved, it's a little bit of both. So, first part of the question is, do some people just have it, and how do we learn how to become change proof?
Well, it's I would love it if you would just read that Martin Luther King quote again. So if you
Yes,
could,
I will.
yes,
You must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope.
perfect. So what we're talking about is the fact that we'll always have disappointments. That's a thing that you have experienced in your life. You'll experience it again. I will as well. And the fact is, you've got to have a hopeful heart. To
Yeah.
me, as part of being resilient, you have to be able to not lose sight of hope and what hope feels like, what it can look like. Because in the moment when you feel that way, hope isn't present. When we feel despondent and depressed and anxious, it's because hope isn't present. I was
Mm,
really lucky in the last couple of weeks to go and speak for a wonderful organization called Habitat for Humanity, and they had a national gathering of their affiliates from all over the country in Atlanta about 2 weeks ago. 3,000 of them, and I was able to deliver a keynote about specifically this concept of what it means to be change proof. But the subtitles, what they really brought me in there, how it is that we leverage the power of uncertainty to build long-term resilience, because that's the thing that we all are dealing with since the pandemic started, and long before it, frankly, is that we live in an uncertain world. There's tremendous uncertainties. And yet, even though there's that finite uncertainty, that maybe there's uncertainty about whether we're going to keep a client, or whether or not we're going to be able to make our numbers or make payroll, or whether or not our business is going to grow this year, or whether people will show up. You open up a live, and do people show up on Facebook for it? You don't know. Does Facebook,
mhm.
for whatever reason, have a glitch like we did at the beginning, and it
Yep.
just shuts off? You don't know. All of those things are unknowns or uncertainties. And what we ultimately want to be able to do is leverage them. And I think that the what Martin Luther King said, I think, is so powerful, in that you, in those moments of uncertainty, it's a hero to you. It's truly a hero to you that you can see and seize hope. When I was in Atlanta to deliver that talk to Habitat for Humanity, when it was done, I took a walk into a different part of town, where from where I was at this hotel, and I was standing in front of John Lewis's mural, the mural to his life, that says hope at the top. I wish we could pop that picture up right now. I've got it on my
Mm,
phone. I mean, it's the perfect corollary to what we're discussing right now. And John lived a life that was based on the hope for people living to see something better. I know that's what Dr. King was living for. And he said in his own speech, I may not live to see that day. I may not live to see the promised land with the rest. But he had hope. And John Lewis was fighting for voting rights all these years and was ever hopeful. So that was the tribute on this mural to his life was hope. So, you can't take hope to the bank. I know people will say stuff like that. And
Mm.
yet when it comes to developing resilience, it's one of those parts of it. It's a piece of the equation. And you quoted my darling wife Randy, and she's one of the wonderful things she will always remind me. She'll just say, "Do you have a hopeful heart right now?
Wow.
Check in, right? Do you have a hopeful
Yeah.
heart in this moment?" Because
Yeah.
it's a pause, right? Pause, ask, choose gives you the moment in time to take a beat, create clarity so that you can create a better decision or at least be able to make a decision in a more conscious way. What are our lives other than the product of the decisions that we've made so far? And I think if we could all go back and maybe do a little, take that little eraser, and scratch some things out or erase some things, it would be those moments where we made decisions when we weren't coming from that place of hope, or we were coming from a place of fear, more in
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah.
And often when it comes to money, a lot of our decision making is about fear. So we can, I think, learn quite a few lessons from the people that you've quoted, and they still present us with a wonderful learning to go forward, even to this day, many many years after their passing.
Yes. And I'm going to encapsulate, just for everyone, like my takeaway from what you just shared is the question was like, are some of us born with it and others not? And, stuff like that will always just make me get agitated. Like, I never ever want to believe that that's what it comes down to. Some people have it and some people don't. I don't.
No, the answer is no.
No,
So
I
when
know that. I know
when
that.
it comes to research, and the research is clear about this, it's not about genetics. And
Yeah.
I know you get that, but I want people to hear it only because this book is based on the research of almost 4,000 leaders from all over the globe, Fortune 50 companies to startups, in determining again what is the paradigm of resilience that's helped them to succeed. You said maybe somebody's going to share, at the beginning, I think when you were setting a context, some people might not have been around for that. You said share this with a friend, tag somebody that might want to learn a secret to success. That's a bold statement to make, except to me, the unsung hero truly in my success and others has been resilience.
Absolutely.
And that is not something that some people are just born with, like it's their birthright,
Right.
and others don't have it. It's
Yeah.
something we can learn and we can develop over time.
Right. And that's it. That was a point I was making. Like the idea that some people have it and some people don't doesn't sit well with me. So, and that's what I want everyone to hear, that that's not true. It is something, and what I got from what you shared was it simply is, can you choose to have hope? Can you choose to be hopeful? Can you choose infinite hope? And you can't take hope to the bank, you said. Well, if change is part of the journey and it's going to happen, if you don't have infinite hope, you might not make it to the bank, period. you know? So
Yeah.
it's like, no,
Hey,
I can't bring it in currency, but I probably won't even get to the bank, the door,
but
if I
let's
don't
play
have hope.
there. Let's play in that space for a second, Tasha, because what we can bring to the bank is resilience. In
Yeah.
fact, there's a section in the book that you know about called the Resilience Bank Account.
Yeah.
So the thing about this is you go, okay, so hope, can't pay my mortgage with hope. How do you maintain hope when crap is just flying all around us and things are changing and I'm being stressed out by whatever it might be? The business isn't working, the marketing isn't working, I'm spending and spending and spending, but nothing's, not enough is coming in, etc. That can be the space. I mean, I was just with a company 3 days ago that's a multi-billion-dollar company that I was speaking for. And when the pandemic began, this company had to furlough most of its employees. Its stock price, publicly traded company, was down 85%.
Wow.
The CEO of the company was not sleeping and having anxiety similar to the kind of anxiety that I talked about during my, when I gave my TED talk. So the fact of the matter is that to have hope in moments like that, it's not an accident. That's
Mm,
what I want to get to here, because this is about preparation. When you are when you understand resilience, and hopefully this book is going to help people, a lot of people, to understand resilience differently than they currently do. You understand that you create and you practice resilience, you perform resilience before you need it. I want to say that again. We have to create our resilience before we need it, before we need it next, because it's a foregone conclusion that the challenges that we face in the last few years, or the challenges we're facing in this moment, are not the last challenges we're going to face, Tasha.
nope.
So we're going to be called upon to be resilient again and again and again. So if you want to be able to use just that one little thing that we were talking about, Dr. King, about maintaining hope, that the challenges might be finite, but what's infinite is our capacity to have that hope, to have that hopeful heart, as my wife Randy would say. Then we have to be resilient before the challenge happens, before the challenge shows up. I'm going to use an example, a different kind of an example, and there might be two camps of thought on this example as well, in your audience. We all saw what happened a few weeks ago with Will Smith at the Oscars, or if we didn't see it, you
We
know,
heard about it.
we heard about it, or we binge watched these clips on YouTube and elsewhere. Um, and I was interviewed for Psychology Today on that topic of, what 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 went sideways in that moment, what was happening. And part of what I said got included in that article, and a part of it didn't. And the part that didn't was really about the fact that Will was depleted. My view of it, when I looked at him with compassion, a
Mm,
guy like that, who's done so much good for the world, he
mm,
speaks in the language that I think you and I both, our hearts really lean into.
yeah.
Um, this is a person doing good things and has been doing good things. And yes, ridiculously successful. I mean, he's the top of the A-list celebrities, right? And more money than you could ever imagine, and sitting in the front row at the Oscars, and he wins an Oscar that night for his performance. It's one of the highlights of his life
Yeah.
that now will have the mirror image of one of the low lights, maybe the lowest light in his life,
Mm,
the low watermark. And you go, well, how does something like that happen? It's almost Shakespearean in its
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
tragedy of it. To
Yeah.
me, how I assess it is that Will was depleted. And when we are depleted from a resilience standpoint, we don't make good decisions. We are reactive. We don't have a hopeful heart. We can't even, like, our hope is out at sea and we can't reach it. We can't swim to it. We can't get to it because we are so depleted, exhausted, even burned out in the moment. And I don't know what it is specifically that might have depleted him so that he could not take that pause. He could not ask the question, what's the best course of action in this moment? Like, how do I best support my wife in this moment? What's appropriate to do? What's not appropriate to do in this moment while the world is watching? He would never, in a conscious moment, have chosen to get on stage and smack his friend, or anyone for that matter, to commit
Yeah.
a battery in public.
Yeah.
Never in a million years would he do that.
Yeah.
But he did, and we saw it. And we're living in a world, and I'm going to pause here right now because I want to get your thoughts on this, Tasha. We're living in a world where there's tremendous anger, and people are reacting, and things are happening, and we can judge very easily that those are bad behaviors of people. And yet, the root cause, from my standpoint, and the research and the work that we do, is that people are depleted mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. They are depleted, and that's why they react the way they do sometimes. They make poor decisions.
Yeah.
You can't succeed very long, for very long, even if you're Will Smith,
Yeah.
when you are not resilient, and he was not resilient that evening.
Yeah. Wow. So powerful, and such a great take on that experience that literally the world watched. And you're right, I saw comments on both sides. And really, one of the things that I think it gave us all the opportunity to do, and if you didn't do this, you really missed out on an opportunity for yourself, was instead of judging or even forming an opinion, is really to learn from watching someone in in a moment not take the pause, because every one of us can relate. There are things I've done that I am for eternally prayerful for forgiveness because I
Mm,
didn't take the pause, you know?
yes.
And I wasn't resilient. And everything that you just said, it was like, what is the thing that makes sense to me? Looking back at every instance um, like that, I was depleted. And so I love what you're saying is prepare for the change, practice resilience, which is why at the bottom of the screen you'll see pause, ask, choose, which is the way Adam structured the book to really serve and support us in becoming resilient and embracing that new definition of what it means to be resilient. And I would love for everyone to get the books. I'm going to put that up here now. Before I ask Adam one last question, so I know everyone wants to get the book right now. Changeproof.com. Changeproof.com. And Adam's got all kinds of amazing gifts for you there. So you want to get on his mailing list. I'm sure you want Adam in your life, just like I have had Adam in my life, which is why I'm sharing him with you all. So get on his mailing list, get your copy of the book, and use it to prepare for the inevitable change. you know so, Adam, one last question. What can we do now? What can we do right now? A simple thing that we can do now.
Yes. Well, I think going to that website as an example, I love it if people would buy the book. Please do that. Fantastic. But at a minimum, if for any reason it's not calling to you or you don't have the money or whatever it might be, it doesn't matter. You can take an assessment that's for that it literally will take you 3 minutes. It's our resilience assessment, and that's for free there for everyone. And as I said, we've used this assessment with almost 4,000 people from all over the globe. So you'll be a part of a very big data pool, but you're the one that will get the results. You're going to get, after taking these 3-minute assessment at 16 questions, you'll get a score in each of these 4 zones: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, to see specifically where it is that you are succeeding at being resilient, where there's some areas for improvement, meaning that you might be in the middle somehow, and where you're in the kind of the red zone that we talk about, which is an area that makes you more vulnerable, more susceptible to an acute stress, an acute change or disruption. And that's where we have to be careful, because we all know that, like whatever example, poor decisions you've made or poor decisions I've made, or the one that we were just discussing, we'd love to go back and just take that eraser. And the eraser would be, I would just take a moment, take a beat, ask some questions, explore, look at what my creative opportunities are, look to see what I don't see, what am I not seeing, what's my blind spot in this moment. And then you can choose. And the powerful choice that I'll just quickly say is that we can choose action, and we can also choose recovery. Resilience is about recovery. And
Mm.
what Will Smith, to me, could have done that night was to choose recovery. If that meant getting up and walking out of the auditorium alone or with his wife, to take his breath, take some air, take a walk, drink some water, close his eyes, meditate, pray, give thanks, whatever it might have been, he would have been able to come back in recharged, ready. He could have had a conversation on a break with his friend. He could have done so many other things to make the point. He could have used his platform when he was giving his acceptance speech to address that issue and address it from a place of empowerment. So,
Mm.
there was so many options there that he knows about today. You can imagine how much he's kicking himself, that we all kick ourselves in those moments. But the root cause of all of our poor decisions, in my estimation, is not that we're bad people, not that we're damaged goods, that we are depleted, and we can do something about that. And that's the call to action here. If you go to changeproof.com, just go to the resilience link, the assessment link, take the assessment. Yes, and if you're a reader, you can read the book. If you want to get a download of the first 3 chapters for free, that's there as well. It's A Walk with Adam. It's a little bit different kind of an audible because I love to walk and we'll take a walk together. And if you want the actual audible, there's an actual audible of the book as well. And we would just love to continue to serve your community, Tasha, helping them to be resilient because, of course, the work that you're doing to help them manifest more success, more money, more happiness, better relationships, the most important ship we sail on, right? Our relationships. To do that, they're going to have to be that much more resilient. And that's
Yeah.
where I love how our two bodies of work dovetail so nicely.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, you get to have a walk with Adam. Someone who has paid quite handsomely for a walk with Adam on the beach out in California. Please go get your walk with Adam. What a generous gift. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So change proof, everyone. Oh, my lighting's doing something funky. There you go. Change proof, go get your copy of it. And like Adam said, if you're not really sure about making the investment for the book right now, go take the test. I literally wrote it down because I want to, I'll do a separate share with our community to get everyone to take the test. Adam, thank you, thank you. There's all kinds of love over here. Thank you
Oh,
for those of you that found it on YouTube and came back. Thank you, and thank you, Adam, for sharing this afternoon.
mwah. To you and to Diane, sending my love, and to everybody out there. Enjoy the rest of your day. Maintain a hopeful heart and be resilient. Stay resilient.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everyone. Thank you, and thanks, Adam.